Please rise in body or spirit. So we've been kind of singing this new song this month, but some of you might be new. Gather in, gather in. Gotta get warmed up here. Gather in, all the people, gather in. There's a place here for all people, gather in. 'Cause when I sit beside your spirit, the road seems a little less dim. Gather in, all the people, gather in. We're gonna sing that again, just like that. Gather in. Here we go. Gather in, all the people, gather in. Yeah, you know it. There's a place here for all people, gather in. 'Cause when I sit beside your spirit, the road seems a little less dim. Gather in, all the people, gather in. Yeah, that's sounding good. Gather in, all your voices, gather in, all your voices, gather in. There's a place here for your voices, gather in. 'Cause when I sit beside your spirit, the road seems a little less dim. Gather in, all your voices, gather in. Gather in, all the memories, gather in, all the memories, gather in. There's a place here for your memories, gather in. 'Cause when I sit beside your spirit, the road seems a little less dim. Gather in, all your memories, gather in. Gather in. How about all your sorrows? There's a place for them here. Gather in, all your sorrows, gather in. There's a place here for your sorrows, gather in. 'Cause when I sit beside your spirit, the road seems a little less dim. Gather in, all your sorrows, gather in. Gather in, all your joy, gather in, all your joy, gather in. There's a place here, there's a place here for your joy, gather in. When I sit beside your spirit, sing it on out. The road seems a little less dim. Gather in, all your joy, gather in. Gather in. I'm gonna need your help a little bit. Can you sing all the people? All the people. All the people, just that, all the people, all the people, you're sounding good. All the, keep on singing, keep on singing. Gather in, we're gonna sing something different. We're gonna sing something different. Gather in, gather in, you're sounding good. Gather in, gather in. Do I have any high voices that can sing? Gather in, gather in. Any high voices can sing that? Gather in, I hear you. Say gather in, gather. Keep singing, gather. We welcome you in. We welcome 'Cause when I sit beside your spirit, the road seems a little less dim. Gather in, all the people gather in, gather in, keep singing, gather in. Last time, gather in. We welcome you in.
Ancestors who spoke with bravest fire, lend us your senses that we may know another world is on her way. Breathe into life with our participation in her creation.
Forebears who led the way where there was at first no way. Lend us your persistence, your temerity, your assurance that the moral arc of the universe does indeed bend toward justice.
Ones who went before us, sacrificing for a future not your own. Help us to give of ourselves that the common stones in our hands today might be cathedrals of compassion, halls of restorative justice tomorrow, sheltering walls of beloved community the day after.
It is Sunday morning, the day we gather. Let us be thankful and full of praise to be in the company of those who came before, yet are ever in our midst.
We light this chalice in honor of the history that holds us and heals us, for the stories of heroism that inspire our own, for the loved ones long gone who helped us see our better selves, for reminders of those who paved the path before us and blessed us with advantages we didn't earn on our own.
These memories do not live in the past. They carve the contours of our present. They are here today. Look, listen, let them in. May their light guide our way.
Amen. Ooh, lots of walking this morning. This is beautiful. Oh my goodness. If anyone else wants to place something on the altar and has not yet done so, please feel free to do so now. So I welcome you, welcome to the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, or ERUUF, as we like to say. My name is Reverend Jacqueline Brett. I'm the lead minister here, and whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your race, your gender identity, whomever you love, and wherever you are in your spiritual journey, we welcome you here in beloved community with us. If you are visiting with us today, or for the first time, or maybe you've been here more than one time, we invite you to rise in body or spirit so that we might give you an ERUUF welcome. Thank you all, and I extend that to the people online. Place your name in the chat and someone will welcome you there as well. So we thank all of you who are here with us today. Come on up. Yeah, you can put them anywhere you want. Yeah, where was I? This is important stuff here. This is great. Thank you for doing that. And we have, but wait, there's more. Come on up. Come on up. I'll just keep talking. And Yeah, I just wanted to thank all the people who are visiting with us. That's where I was. Thank you for choosing to spend this Sunday morning with us. And we invite you on other Sundays. We have a program that's called the Inquirer's Program for Visitors and Newcomers that takes place in the building next door at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. And it's a way to get to know who we are, and we can get to know who you are as well. And so we invite you to join us in those classes. There are 8 of them in all, and they rotate, and so you really get to understand and know some things about our congregation, and we get to know you as well. Now would be a great time to turn off or down any devices you might have on your person. And for those of you who might be visiting and you might have a child with you, your children are welcome to join our children in our classes for religious exploration, which take place right after the time for all ages, the story. And so if you go out and follow all the other parents out, someone will guide you on where to go and what to do. So why don't we all just center ourselves for a moment? And let us together take a deep breath in and let it out. So this week, as last week was, it is our second week in which we are acknowledging the great work that our foundation does. And so here to talk about that work is Mel Downey-Piper, who is on ERUUF's Board of Trustees and is the representative on the foundation's Board of Trustees. She's the board rep, and she's going to share some about the ERUUF Foundation.
All right, good morning, ERUUF. Thank you for that warm welcome. So as Reverend Jacqueline said, my name is Mel Downey-Piper. I am serving on the Board of Trustees. I just joined the Eno River Fellowship Foundation Board. I'm here to speak with you about that today. If you've been coming to services lately, you know we've been thinking a lot about legacy, right? And so I'm here today to share a piece of my story, a little bit of my legacy, what I hope to leave, but also the hope that you all continue to think about your journey and your legacy with ERUUF and what you might want to leave behind, and maybe even consider a gift to the foundation. So as I prepared today, I really tried to think, I'm a lifelong UU, right? What are some of my most formative memories of being a Unitarian Universalist? And the thing that kept coming to mind were sleepover parties. Does that resonate with anybody here? Like, okay, no, maybe not. But for me, I went to a lot of different sleepover retreats and camping things, and that's where I found my people, right? And so if you've ever done that, it really brings you closer to people, closer to finding community, not just sitting here in service, right? And so I did that when I was a young person in Milwaukee in the Midwest. We had multiple churches coming together. We had lock-in retreats. When I was a student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, there was even a college group, and we had lock-ins in the church. So it was a pretty incredible time for me. So fast forward, I moved to North Carolina, had to do the whole grad school thing. Church was kind of a last priority at that point. But once I graduated, had kids, I knew I wanted to find my home, my spiritual home, right? And so when we bought a house in Durham, ERUUF was the place for us. So at that time, my daughter joined. She was just an infant. She started off in the nursery. That was 14 years ago, so I've been here a while, right? You know, it's wonderful. I think they're on the live stream today. They couldn't make it out of bed. So Logan started coming to the nursery. We started coming regularly. My partner and I ended up splitting up when the kids were ages 2 and 4, though. And so for anyone who's been through a breakup, especially with kids involved, it's a really tricky time, right? And that's really when you really need to turn to your community to seek that support. And so I decided to join several different groups here at ERUUF. And one of them was the parents group. And that was really a turning point for me. So the parents group hosted this camping trip. I was like, ooh, do I really want to do this with these tiny little kids, right, all by myself? And so I decided to buy a pop-up tent, like an easy one that you don't even need to put like the poles in, right? Because like you don't need anyone's help. You're by yourself in this on the ERUUF parents camping trip. So you open it up and it's just like, boom, you're ready. So I did that. It worked out great. Met tons of people. I actually started planning camping trips after that for the parents groups. There's usually about 60 different kids and parents who came. And it was just such a joy watching our kids grow up together, all the chats along the fire, planning meals, even worship on Sunday morning in the woods, right? So that was an incredible time. On one of these camping trips, though, this very cheap tent that I bought completely failed. Like, the poles snapped. And I don't know if you've ever been in a tent. If you don't have poles that are taut, it is not a good experience, right? Like, you can't, there's no air in the tent. So you do need to move along to a different dwelling. So it is really difficult to ask for help, right? I'm sure many of you have experienced that before. I had to ask for the half and half creamer that you forgot on the camping trip, but that didn't feel like that big of an ask compared to, hey, I need a place to stay right now. So we actually turned and asked another family that we heard was leaving a day early, and it was difficult to ask for that help. But the funny thing is when you ask for help, people generally want to help you. It's almost like they're waiting to be asked, right? To help kind of make your day. And so while that family moved out, we moved into the tent, and we had a lovely experience. And so I know that I needed community and ERUUF in so many groups, including this choir, which I absolutely love and have been a part of in the past. And all of these groups really provided me with the grounding and the support and the friendship that I needed. And I became a part of the tapestry at ERUUF. And when I was ready, began to weave in my own contributions. So a few months later, my daughter Logan went to an ERUUF middle school lock-in, right? Full circle. She had an amazing time, had no sleep, too much sugar, but like had such amazing connections, and then wanted to keep coming back to ERUUF, and told her brother, right? And they're like, we're all about middle school group now. And if you've ever had middle schoolers, it's an amazing thing when they want to come to church every Sunday. So this is my community. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to raise my kids. ERUUF helped me rebuild my community and start the legacy that I want to leave with my children and with ERUUF. It helped me heal, feel joy, give freely of my time and treasure, and be open to finding love again. And speaking of love, I really wanted a wifey for lifey. I don't know if you know what that is, but this is my new wife, Sophie. And it all worked out. And I found love when I met Sophie, right? So in May, Reverend Jacqueline, so just May, we're very newlyweds here. In May, Reverend Jacqueline married Sophie and me at a lovely ceremony next to the Eno River. And as most couples know, talking about finances is the sexiest thing you can do in a new relationship, right? So, we looked at our wills, we looked at all that stuff. And when we met with the attorney, they were like, is there any organization that you want to give to, right? Besides your family, your kids? And I hadn't really thought about that before. But the more I thought about it, the only organization that really came to mind that I have given so much to and that has given so much to me was ERUUF. And so we decided together to put ERUUF down as a recipient. If anything does happen to us, something will happen in the future, hopefully not anytime soon. So I also need to be honest, because I know I'm on the board and I have learned a lot since I've been on the board, but I didn't even realize ERUUF had a foundation until last year. All right, and here I am talking about it now. So I want y'all to pay attention, because sometimes there's a lot going on at ERUUF, and we tune out at certain times, or people start talking about money, and we stop listening. But I want you to pay attention, right? Especially you young people. So the foundation can only spend the interest from the principal each year, right? So that's a beautiful thing. We have an endowment. Have any of you noticed the amazing audio-visual equipment that we have at ERUUF? It's pretty stellar, especially since COVID. Have you noticed that we have solar panels that power many of our buildings? Have you noticed the shelter outside, outside the fellowship hall, when it's a really hot day or when it's rainy? Maybe you've stood under it before, right? Have you ever been to a racial equity and inclusion training? Yeah, well, I have. And I think you have too, right? These are all things that the interests from the foundation have provided in this current moment. And so I really encourage you all to think kind of about what the foundation can do for us as a community. Normally when I think about contributing to an endowment or a foundation, I think, that's for my elders, that's for those wealthy folks, right? That's not for me, but that's not true. Please consider giving now to the foundation. While including ERUUF in your will or in your trust is an incredible gift, we also encourage people to give it any amount now. You've probably heard of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? You guys know about those times near Thanksgiving, which is coming up in a little bit. There's also something called Giving Tuesday, right? So you can think about this, Giving Tuesday, as another opportunity to give to an organization that really has similar values to those that you hold. Please consider the Eno River Fellowship Foundation, and please speak to us afterwards in the fellowship hall. Thank you all.
I feel like we kind of, woo! Oh my gosh, you are costumed today. I feel like we already had story time, but, the story of the tent that had some troubles. But come on down. I'm going to scoot back just a little bit, because we got a little bit of a wedge to fit in today. We got a lot of stuff up here with us, y'all. Wow. Exactamundo. Very, very true. All right, we're getting in. Yes? You have that book? This is a book connected to that book. So this is like the sequel to that book. And I'm going to ask you about it in just a second. And now I already know your answer. So I'm going to ask, let's see, how many people here have ever heard the book, The Invisible String? I know you have, because you just told me so. Yeah, it is a book that some people have seen. This is actually a sequel to that book. So if you like this one and you haven't read The Invisible String, you might go back to it. But this is a book that talks about a little bit about our connections today. On this day when we are remembering ancestors, remembering people before us. Right here I've got a picture of some of my ancestors. Can you figure out who I am on there? You're right. How'd you know? What?
Those are your ancestors?
Yeah, they are.
You're a little baby.
Very young, I was a little baby. I have the same hair also. Yeah. It's true. What was that? Is that what? Yeah, it's my mom and my dad and my mom's mom and dad. So I'm thinking about them today. So this story, The Invisible Web, talks about how we're all a little bit connected. The very best news ever has begun to spread all over the world. And watch for this string all over these pages. One heart at a time. Shout it from the mountaintops. Every single one of us is connected to those we love by invisible strings.
Oh yeah, I've read this.
You've read this one? You might have. That means Giovanna and her daddy are always together, even though he moved to a new house. Omar can feel the tugs of love from his parents, even though he is living far away at school. Mr. Chang still feels Mrs. Chang close by, even though she died such a very long time ago. See the little string of connection, even though she's not there? He might be sad, but he also feels like she is with him. Oh, this is my favorite picture in the book. And you, at this very moment, may feel the string of someone close to you, even though they aren't there. You can't see it, but it's real. How many people here have somebody that they care about who's not in this room? Indeed, you have strings to people outside of this room. How about that? How many people? Yeah. And sometimes we're sad that they're far away, but we have those strings connecting us. How many people in this room are close to somebody in this room? Yeah, okay.
My old friend Taylor is far away.
Oh, yes. So you're also connected to your friends who are far away. Yes?
Connected to my great-grandma, and then she passed away.
Yes, exactly. connected to your great-grandmother, even though she passed away. Yeah.
My grandma lives somewhere else.
And you're still connected to her, I bet. Yeah.
The city is farther than Wood City. The city
Mm.
is a little too far from the city. We are where we're too far than the city my grandma.
Ah, yes, a little too far away to visit her very much. And one more, and then we got to keep rolling in this story, yeah?
I'm probably connected to my dad. He's at one of my houses.
Oh, probably
Also, I might be connected to baseball.
connected to your dad and connected to baseball. And I bet you the people who you play baseball with, too. Yeah. All right, our strings reach to everyone we know. They travel far and wide to families and friends, classmates and coaches, bus drivers and babysitters, neighbors and pets, to aunts and uncles and grandparents and grandchildren and countless other people. And all of those people have hundreds of strings. Probably good they're not real strings, because we get very tangled up. Oh, this is my favorite picture in the book, I think. What do you mean? Oh, well, yes, I did say the other one. This one might be my new favorite picture. It's very long. It's my second favorite. One of them is. Soaring high over rocky peaks and across the seven seas, deep into jungles and valleys, and winding across the busiest of cities, all of these strings crisscross one another and create a nest that covers the planet, interlacing us together, cradling us forever. All those strings. The web has no borders and wraps every continent. Within it live butterflies and flowers, starfish and seahorses, lions and ants, rivers and snowstorms, and all human beings. Everybody in this room, everybody everywhere. Giovanna, Omar, Mr. Chang, and of course, you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and all of you, and me too. And all of you too. Oh, now this is my favorite picture in the book. It is well, I do really love this picture, actually. Some say it even reaches to our ancestors and those we cherish in the beyond. One tug on a string sends love to every one of us, woven together in this divine tapestry. And that means just one good deed travels around the entire web. Everybody is linked. But sometimes folks forget. When they can't feel their strings, they forget about our invisible web. And that's when strings get tangled up. Like when lonely Louisa isn't invited to sit with anyone at her school at lunchtime. Has anybody ever not been invited? Anybody here ever not been invited? Yeah, it feels kind of lonely. Or when Stad Stefano wishes his friend Marcos wasn't so bossy when they played. Has anybody ever had somebody be bossy when they played? Yeah. Or when Mrs. Patel struggled at work without help and she just wants to quit. How many people haven't felt supported and they kind of are like, I really want to quit? Yeah, me too. Even violence and war can erupt when too many of us forget the web. When strings are ignored, they can become weak and begin to unravel. But the more people who care for the web, the stronger it remains. Now, this is my favorite picture in the book. Mostly because like all the strings are in shapes of hands, and I think it's real cool. I know I keep changing it, but it's still true. The web feels like every parent since the beginning of time, holding and protecting each one of us in millions of gentle arms. What could be stronger than all those hands holding us close? So many supportive fingers, always finding a way to untangle strings so that love can flow again. But it's up to every one of us to spread the word. Our time is right now. As we tell our families and friends, sisters will remind brothers, who will write to cousins, who will call their great-grandparents, who will just nod and smile as if they have always known. If we remember the web and tug at it often, nobody will ever be left out. We will see others more clearly. The people of the world will look into each other's eyes. They will smile at one another, and when one of them cries, they will all want to help. And they do. Marcos apologizes to Stefano, who forgives his friend, and they have even more fun playing. Has anybody ever had a friend apologize? Somebody helps Mrs. Patel at work and tells her what a great job she's doing. She remembers that she's important and feels happy. Has anybody ever told you you did a good job? Yeah, and Louisa feels warm and bubbly inside when a few kids in the class ask her to join them under the banyan tree for lunch. She knows right then that the invisible web is real. After school, Louisa cries with joy as she pets her cat and purrs the news to the stars. And the stars whisper in the secret to the clouds. You see the string going all over the place. Who share it with the songbirds who serenade the world with this exquisite melody of love at the start of each morning and all during the day. Until, as the invisible web glitters in the magic of twilight, the owls take over and hoot the news throughout the night. The invisible web is alive.
This is my favorite picture of the book.
You got me. The time is right now. It breathes as we breathe, pulsating all over our earth, the single heartbeat of life and love. And do you know what that makes us all? One very big family. Now, to follow that up, this is also my favorite picture of the book. P.S. I just love being right here in the very middle of the invisible web with you. And that begins our time in religious exploration for some of you. That's your favorite picture? I think it's lovely. That's lovely. So I encourage you all to go enjoy your time. Oh, yes?
Please rise in body or spirit. We are going to sing hymn number 1051, We Are, which is in the teal hymnal, and the lyrics will be on the screen as well. 1051. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Please turn and greet your neighbor.
I don't know, I'm parched today. Sorry. The writer Alice Walker once said, "To acknowledge our ancestors means we are aware that we did not make ourselves. We remember them because it is an easy thing to forget that we are not the first to suffer, rebel, fight, love, and die. The grace with which we embrace life, in spite of the pain, the sorrows, is always a measure of what has gone before." This morning, we acknowledge those who have gone before, all souls, our ancestors, in our own Day of the Dead celebration, a simple honoring of those who have died, who we claim as ancestor and choose to honor. To honor our ancestors is not to worship them, but to acknowledge our love, respect, and kinship with those who have come before us. To name or claim our lineage, and that through us the lineage continues. The recognition and appreciation of those who have come before us occurs in cultures and religions all over the world, whether in the East, the West, the North, or South, the continent of Africa, and the African diaspora, and among indigenous cultures everywhere. And no matter the degree of social, political, or technological complexity, the acknowledgement of ancestors is an important aspect of religious and even secular practices, such as with the many federal holidays that we celebrate in our own country. Think Memorial Day, Veterans Day, President's Day, Martin Luther King Day, or Juneteenth. As is true with many of the rituals and ceremonies we humans create, the religious holidays that honor the dead most often reflect the rhythms and patterns of nature. That there is a season when things come to life and begin, and also a season when they cease to be and die. Rituals for Samhain, did I pronounce that correctly? Say it out loud. Samhain, thank you. Samhain, a most important holiday of Celtic origin that venerates the dead, is celebrated both consciously and unconsciously here in the United States by many of our adults and children. Let me get some water. Consciously, it is a pagan ritual that offers an opportunity to bring closure to grieving, especially in the ancient notion that at Samhain, the veil is thin between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. And so offerings of food and light are left for them. And in fact, our pagans will be celebrating Samhain today, right? Is that today? This afternoon. At what time?
6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. this evening, should you care to join them. But unconsciously, our Halloween celebrations and merrymaking are rooted in Samhain beliefs and traditions. In her book, In Nature's Honor, Myths and Rituals Celebrating the Earth, Patricia Motley points out that the ghosts and goblins and grim reapers who people our parties and parades are fun versions of the very serious destination that we know deep down we cannot escape. As Christianity spread around the world, such pagan and indigenous holidays and beliefs became absorbed into those religious traditions. The dead have been remembered through rites and rituals of All Souls' Day, with the most elaborate celebration of them all in this part of the world being El Día de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, observed on November 1st and 2nd, mostly in Latin American countries, though through migration, this holiday is quickly spreading throughout the United States. With El Día de los Muertos, the dead are not feared but welcomed, with religious services and celebrations that combine Roman Catholic rites and rituals of All Saints and All Souls' Day with indigenous traditions that acknowledge the dead. It is said that many indigenous people have a conscious understanding that life and death are one, that there is continuity between them both. All of these holidays, rites, rituals, and celebrations that acknowledge our lives and death and how they continue among the living represent the various ways we make meaning of the cosmos, the universe, and our place within it. They represent our cosmology, our ways of seeing, being, and understanding the world as we pass along the inherited stories, objects, places, learnings, and practices we've inherited over generations. So last Sunday afternoon, I had the very great honor to gather with 3 generations of the family of Shirley Collins, who many of you knew as a beloved ERUUFian who was here for many years. We were there for the interment of her ashes in our memorial garden. It was a sacred time, as these times always are. And though the family had said to me beforehand that they didn't need much time or ceremony because they had had her celebration of life 2 years ago, I responded to them that one never knows what might arise during these moments. And sure enough, We were all very deeply moved as we listened to the sharing of story after story, as memory after memory of Shirley and her husband Ivor began to well up among them all. After the interment was over, the family began to take pictures of Shirley and Ivor's plaques in the memorial garden. They knew how much ERUUF meant to her, and especially since all but one lived in North Carolina, they wanted those tangible images for future moments as they remembered these two lives that are now their ancestors. And of course, I invited them to visit with us whenever they are in this area, and they said they would, and I believe they will. Such honoring of our ancestors and sharing of memory is very good. Not only to bring some closure to grief, though this often takes a while to do, but also because there are a multitude of stories that comprise a human life. And when considering someone's existence among us, it is most often the case that many of us hold the pieces of their story, even if that person or their family is unaware that we do so. None of us holds anyone's full story. And so with Shirley's story about her love for ERUUF as a start, I begin here now by acknowledging the ancestors of ERUUF. And for this moment, those who were among the 42 people who were the founders and charter members of this congregation. There is actually, if some of you have not seen it, a plaque on the wall right outside the chapel door with each of their names. And so yesterday I confessed to a group of ERUUFians that I actually tried to take that plaque off the wall because it is somewhat hidden in that current location. But I discovered that I could not because it is bolted onto the wall. And so I attempted to twist it and pull it and just pry it off the wall. And finally I stopped when I realized that I might have to account for a big hole in the wall to Sean Trimble and Reverend Daniel. So based on my own actions, it's probably a good thing that plaque is bolted on. Although I did talk to Reverend Daniel that we need to move it so that people can more readily see it. However, the reason I was trying to remove the plaque was because I wanted to bring it in here for this service. Because as we talk about ancestors, whether they're our own or those of ERUUF, it can sometimes feel rather abstract, especially if we are not among those who knew them personally. The physical representation of who they all were helps us to appreciate that, to paraphrase Alice Walker, we acknowledge our ancestors because we are aware that we did not create ourselves here at ERUUF. Honoring and recalling the stories of our ancestors, whether personal or ERUUFian, good or less than perfect, form an arc from them to this present moment, just as we form an arc to the future, as we shall be the ancestors of the generations that follow us. The 42nd people who became charter members, all with the exception of 2 who were at the earlier service, Georgie and Rick Searles, all those 40 people are ancestors of ERUUF now. They were catalyzed to found this congregation as a result of the untimely death of UU minister, the Reverend James Reeb, during the 1965 civil rights protests with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in Selma, Alabama. Sometimes I know we often wonder why we focus on justice so much. not only because it's right, but actually in Selma, UU clergy formed the greatest number of clergy that were actually from a single denomination that were actually in Selma together. So many of our people were there. And when they returned back to their congregations, they were transformed by that experience and felt that something had to be made right. And hence, they began to focus a great deal upon justice. And it has become part of our lineage and our tradition now to focus ourselves on justice. At that time, it was said among those early founders of this congregation that there needed to be a place where the people of progressive thought and ideas who lived in the South might safely gather, a place where Unitarian Universalists might gather. And I'm sorry to say it, but 60 years later, today, this need, this truth exists as deeply and critically now as it ever has. We remember our ancestors because it is an easy thing to forget that we are not the first to suffer, rebel, fight, love, and yes, even die. And that here there was a beginning that was filled with hope, imagination, persistence, commitment, and a tangible effort, all of which was about the collective stewardship by those original founders and the early members of ERUUF of this community through the contributions of their time, their talent, and yes, their treasure, because the lights and the water needed to stay on, and property needed to be purchased, and buildings built, and ministers and staff hired, and thus we get to be here now in this time and this place. Several years ago, in May of 2020, when Mr. George Floyd was killed, I was feeling quite frustrated and bereft on multiple levels. I was going through health difficulties, and there was all that stuff that was going on in the world. A dear mentor and friend called me to see how I was doing, and when I poured out my heart to him, he said, perhaps now would be a good time to remember and call upon the ancestors. Not only those in your own family, he said, but the ancestors whose lineage you can claim. Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells, Fannie Lou Hamer, all those incredible women who came before you and endured times even worse than this and made a difference with their lives. He and I talked some more, and I gradually felt better, even though my heart still hurt, which no one said it would not. And I was also quite awed as I thought of not only my family, but all those others I claim as part of my lineage. About a week later, I received a package in the mail, and it contained this wood carving of African women that my friend had brought back from his trip to Ghana several years ago when he traveled there. And his note simply said to me, "Remember your ancestors." And I now do, each and every day, more than I ever had before. That small statue sits on my altar at home, and I wanted to bring it here today. I intended to do so and ran out of the house and left it sitting on a chair. I wanted to place it on this altar as well. But that said, who do you remember? And how do you remember them? It is wonderful to remember those who loved us here, who caused us to be here with all their energies and actions rooted in faith and hope. And it is also okay to remember those we might have loved, but we have also chosen to be who we are in spite of who they were. We've consciously chosen a different path and way of being. In difficult and sometimes terrible ways, they too have been the catalyst for who we are as well. And so let us pause for a moment to remember those who came before us. And so at this time, I invite those of you who wish to do so to come forward to light a candle, to acknowledge the ancestors in your life, or perhaps you might wish to light a candle for someone who you might know to be at the very edges of life at this time. And if you haven't yet done so, you may still place a image, a photograph, or an object on the altar. And because there are so many of you in the room, we will, as we often do, this time I'm going to start on this side because I always start on that side. So I'm going to ask if you would come down the side aisle if you want to come forward to light a candle, and head up the center aisle so that we don't form a bottleneck. Kate? Or whoever.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in the homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in the crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
I invite us to take a moment just to be present, to truly a physical embodiment of the warmth that we hold for those who have gone before us. And now, I invite you to breathe deeply. Let your bodies be as comfortable as possible. If you're comfortable with closing your eyes, you may do so, or let them lose focus. As we enter into a time of meditation, contemplation, and for some, the deep ask of prayer. Spirit of life, source of love, as we are moving toward the darkest time of the year, I hold gratitude that this time brings reflection upon our ancestors, our beloveds who have gone before us, be they ancestors by blood, by love, by identification, or by inspiration. May we continue to hear their impact on our lives as we move through the coming months, relishing the lessons, the wisdoms, the blessings that darkness brings. Today, too, we hold the challenges of this world. Among those challenges, we hold the pain of the victims and families of the shootings in Lewiston, Maine, as well as victims of continued gun violence throughout our country. We also continue to pray for those in Israel and Palestine as conflict and pain continues. As I often do, I pray for leaders to focus on humanity and to seek deeper, more complex conversations and answers that might advance health and steps towards healing. Also, we hold the victims of Hurricane Otis in Acapulco as they begin to recover from the destruction brought by the storm. In our own community, we also hold those with joys and concerns. We hold the family and community of Elizabeth Scott as they mourn her recent death. We hold Anne Verdine Jones as she recovers from recent surgery. And may we now take a silent moment to hold all those joys and concerns that are left unsaid at this time. May our ERUUF community embrace, mourn with, hold, and celebrate together as we experience today's moments in this journey through life. Amen, and blessed be.
Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine all night long. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. So let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine all night long. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. And it might be me or it might be you. It might be your brother or your sister too. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. Traveling from near or lands afar
traveling by the morning sun or the evening star. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. So let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine all night long. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. And it might be you or it might be me, traveling over land or the deep blue sea. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. So in times of joy and in times of woe, don't you ever let your lamp burn low. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. So let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine all night long. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. Yes, there might be someone down in the valley trying to get home.
So it takes a lot to bring together a community such as this as we gather together, and as our ancestors here at ERUUF proved to us, it takes much by way of our time, our talent, and our treasure, yes, our treasure too, so that we too can keep the lights on and the water on. So as the greeters come forward, they will pass the plates. If you do not have something material to put into the plate at this time, know that you can point your device at the QR code right on the screen, and it will lead you to our giving page. You might also find a card in the pew racks that also have a QR code that's a little closer in, and you can point to that as well.
As for me and my house, you'll find us serving peace. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving peace. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving peace. Peace for all right now. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving truth. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving truth. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving truth. Truth for all right now. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving joy. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving joy. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving joy. Joy for all right now. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving love. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving love. As for me and my house, you'll find us serving love. Love for all right now. Let there be peace for all right now. Let's speak the truth to all right now. Let there be love for all right now.
Amen. We give thanks for all of the gifts of this community, the gift of music, the gift of song, the gift of just being together, the gift of the light that we hold together, the gift of those from whence we came. We are grateful. We are grateful. And I turn it back to you, Wendy.
Please rise, embody your spirit. Join me in singing our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home, which is 1064 in the Teal Hymnal.
So before I offer our closing words, I just want to remind you all not to leave the sanctuary before collecting your precious photos that are on this altar. They are beautiful to behold. Today's closing words are adapted from the poem A House Called Tomorrow by Alberto Rios. He writes, "You are not 15 or 12 or 17. You are 100 wild centuries and 15, bringing with you in every breath and in every step everyone who has come before you, all the yous that you have been, the mothers of your mother and the fathers of your father. When you as a child learned to speak, it's not that you didn't know words. It's that from the many centuries you knew so many. And it's hard to choose the words that will be your own. From those centuries, we human beings bring with us The simple solutions and songs, the river bridges and star charts and song harmonies, all in service to a simple idea that we can make a house called tomorrow. What we bring finally into the new day, every day, is ourselves. Look back only for as long as you must, then go forward into the history that you will make. And those who came before you, when you hear thunder, hear it as their applause. May it be so, my friends. Amen and ashe. Go in love and go in peace. And don't forget your stuff.